Hey there, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Comics Rant. My name is Arvin Bautista, and welcome to the episode. I have not done a lot of these episodes in a long time. When I started this channel, I made an episode split up into two. One would be looking through comics that I love to get inspiration, and the next one would be me drawing my own stuff. Turns out that stuff was just too long, too much for me to try to edit together, and it just wasn't fun. I couldn't really keep up. I had to think up of other things. So nowadays I split it up into two. One half is I've been posting a lot of those. So those are Comics Rant minis. Those are all just comic book stuff. Just I take a comic book and then I dissect it, geek out over it, and flip through pages so everybody can see and be inspired on their own. So this other type of episode, I'm just going to try with the stuff that I do for myself. Like personal work, I don't know, I might break down and start sharing some of my video game work, but for the most part, it's my comic book stuff, because it is Comics Rant. Anyway, for this episode, I kind of had a little more time. I am in between jobs. I'm actually doing a contract right now, but the hours don't have to be a full 7 or 8 hour day. It's just the nature. So while I'm not making as much money, it's a little bit more predictable, and I can actually have a little bit of time to do stuff for me, like this channel. And what I've been doing now is because I don't have a permanent job, I've been trying to work on my own stuff more. And one of the projects that I have has been this book, Bomb Squad. So I think even my first few episodes of Comics Rant feature me drawing this stuff. And it's just been so long. I think that was like 3-4 years ago. And I need to get back to it just to kind of finish it up, wrap it up into this one arc, and then just let it out again. So you can see I actually have a physical copy of this book. This is the first issue. I think I have 3 of these. I'm trying to get this stuff into Webtoons. So it's kind of like this very cool format. I'm just going to flip through my book here. So this is like regular comic book printed comics, right? Went through Kablam. That was pretty cheap. I think you can find other print-on-demand places, but that's what I found way back when. It's still okay. It's not like I make bank out of these. And speaking of that, so what prompted me to translate these into Webtoons is, here, let me just shrink my face. You get to see my messy desktop. Let me shrink my face, move over here, maybe up here is better. And then I can show you guys what I've been up to. I have been taking the pages from this book and making them into Webtoons format. So on the left is the Webtoons format. This is my Photoshop. I am broke. I am cheap. So I'm actually using Photoshop CS2, which has some serious issues, but minor graphical bugs. It is unsupported by Adobe. They themselves said you can have it for free a few years ago. And that's what I've just been using. Solid enough. I don't have to do anything fancy. I don't need AI. I don't need any of that stuff. I just draw everything. Okay, so anyway, getting back to it. This file on the left, you can see, is my Webtoons page. And it's kind of like this formatted super long. You plop it into Webtoons, it'll chop it up into what it needs it to be, so it loads up quicker. But this is how it's laid out. On the right are my comic book pages, so I can kind of run you guys through what I've been doing to kind of translate it over. There's a lot of cool things that you can do with this strictly vertical format. There's a lot of limits, but I think it's kind of fun. So I'm kind of translating my print comic into web comics. I'm not really making a lot of money from my print comic, and I think this way with Webtoons, it's not like I'm going to be rich. I might be able to reach a couple other people more so than I used to by like printing it out, going to cons and trying to, try to hand sell it. It's so this is where digital comics is a lot stronger, I feel, at least for the indies, because I can at least like throw it up there and see if people are interested. To be honest, even if they're not, I'm just gonna keep doing it anyway. But as I'm doing this translation of my book, I find there's some really fun techniques that I can do. I can show you some of them. So we'll just flip through this real quick. The original page is this, and I thought out of this. The thought when I laid it out is that it's comic book pages. When you turn onto a page, your eye sees everything at once, and this is kind of like a moment where it's chaos. Action happens, and there's all these things happening, and so you can even see my panel layouts. There's not a lot of straight perpendicular lines except for this one on the bottom on my panel borders. So they're like slanting, they're tilted, they're all this stuff that's loud, there's sound effects. And I found when I colored it initially with quote unquote real colors on model, it was a little confusing. So you could see I broke up the colors here where it's this limey green for this first panel, and then like a cooler green, and then like these reds. So they kind of stand out from each other. They're contrasty. It's action. So that's what's going on. So for the Webtoons version, it's vertical. It's a smaller screen real estate, or I don't know, format real estate, to kind of try to present this page as is. So I actually had to choose which panels should come first before you read them. Like whereas in my original page, you can kind of look at all of it at the same time and then just kind of go back in there and try to read it sequentially. So in this case, I did the action shot, and then 2 panels of green, and then another action shot, which are the reds. 2 panels of green, the reds, the 2 panels of greens, and then the reds again, and then 2 panels to finish it off, just like that page. And what's fun is I'm able to manipulate these images. So the cooler green ones are definitely bigger, obviously, but I'm able to play with the width of the borders around these red panels. So in the original page, they're all just kind of smushed up into each other. It's just happening really fast. I'm not trying to let it breathe. You're just reading it, and it flows from one panel to the other. Sometimes maybe even confusingly so, but that's okay. In this format, the red panels are split up. And what I did to kind of also translate that like chaos and that like in-your-face action is I would change the white gutters on the side of these panels. So the first panel of that red sequence, it's your standard border panel. The next one, it's a little smaller, and then the last one, it's just the bleed. So if you're looking at your phone, it'll just go from edge to edge, and now it's like really in your face. And there's some fun things that happen, because when I cut it up, see this NG on the left side? It just got cut off, and I could easily Photoshop it and get rid of it. But I kind of like how big it was, so it's almost like the sound that you just missed, because everything is happening so much. So you could see like, or I could be just, you could call me lazy, but I think it worked out in that panel. So I would kind of re-author some of these panels and draw in certain missing pieces. So like this POW, the bottom of this panel does not exist at all. It was just drawn that way. So I kind of had to draw it back on, and I can totally do that with these sound effects going in this red sequence, but I opted not to. It was kind of cool. I kind of liked it. Anyway, okay, so that's that page. And then even the way the words are laid out in a lot of webtoons is that they occupy a space that's separate from the image. I guess because you can. So what I like about regular print comics is, so you can see it on the right side here, is that the text bubbles usually exist within the context of the picture. So, I mean, even the greats will tell you, like, they will lay out the word bubble reading order first before they draw, because that's the important thing. That's where your eye should bounce around. With Webtoons, it's vertical. So you're just going down. That's it. And you're kind of getting funneled in this straight vertical line. And so you can see it here. So in this page, you can see it. There's the text is Bomb Girl, which is this character, is saying, "Correct me if I'm wrong, Mer, but aren't you supposed to follow up a line like, 'Hey buddy,' with something cool and snappy?" And here, I can just kind of put it right there. Correct me if I'm wrong, aren't you supposed to follow up a line like, "Hey buddy"? And then I've actually made this panel vertical in this setup. It doesn't always work out, but in this case it does, and I kind of liked how it looked, so I was like, all right, I'm keeping it. So who cares, right? Maybe who cares? But how these word bubbles are and how they're laid out and why they're just hanging in midair and so on. But I've found that print comics, some people don't actually know how to read them. Now, I've been reading comics for ages, so it's how I breathe, how I read and breathe. Is I know you read from left to right, up vertical, up to down, and so on. Even your text bubbles should be that way so you can read it. But, there's certain people that don't know how to read them and kind of get daunted. So my wife is an example of this. I will hand her a comic book, and she doesn't know what to make of it. She doesn't know whether she should look at the image first, or read the pictures, or read the words, which panel comes first, and all that kind of stuff. And I tell her all the time, but she just couldn't be bothered. It's a little bit more work for her. Now, I've raised my kids right, so they know how to read a comic book. Don't you worry about that. But anyway, in Webtoons, that is easily solved because of this format. You just read what comes next when you're scrolling. Kind of nice. Anyway, so this is that sequence put into Webtoons format. I've decided to keep certain things still in their horizontal orientation, like when she flips this screwdriver to become a wrench. And then I kind of still, the font gets a little bigger because of this format too. You can't really have it the same font as print size. It's better when it's a little bigger, so people have an easier time reading it. And I've had to edit, sometimes I've had to edit how they're laid out within the bubble. So it's a little bit of work in that sense. I'm able to go back to this, and some things that I would like to change, I'm able to do. Oops, my phone is beeping. I get to do it. So like this text bubble that says, "I heard that," I really wanted to denote that it was somebody else speaking. That's not there. And so this time around, I can make a green and put it around there. Okay, so that's that page. And then this page kind of retains its layout because it's so vertical in the original printed page anyway. The thing that I liked about this, because of this format too, is I was able to give a little bit more importance to this panel of Bomb Girl shouting Mer, her reaction panel. Before this sequence, the bomb squad has been winning. These guys try to fight terrorists, and they're, in this world that they live in, the bombs are robots. The terrorists are robots, robot bombs. And they've been winning throughout the course of this book, or these pages, until now. So now the tide has turned, and I kind of wanted to give that importance. So even in the print version, there's ways that I managed to do it where I kind of broke all the bleeding panels, and then she's kind of off off center, so her eye is kind of cut in this uncomfortable cut on her eye, and it's almost like it's moving too fast and you can't catch it. And then because Bomb Girl is just really shocked, Bomb Girl is this character. In the Webtoons format, I'm able to really make it huge on the screen, which I think is even cooler. So certain sequences seem to lend themselves better into this format. I don't think I hate doing it one way or the other. It's just interesting There's a lot of these different things that I kind of have to adjust to, and it's exciting. It's not a bad thing. It's exciting for me. And then after the sequence, we have the title, and then this is the end of that chapter. So that's these pages in Webtoons format. And I've read through a few comics, Webtoon comics, that do this, and I kind of like it. I kind of like that there's like an end and almost like credits or thank you, and then I can attach an image at the end, which is this this episode of the Bomb Squad is like the third episode in the first chapter, and the first chapter is going to be the first issue. So I think I have like 3 or 4 episodes within this chapter, and it's kind of nice that I can organize it and put these covers to for each episode. So it's kind of like people know like, oh, you're still in chapter 1. Okay. So the other things that I've found out while I've been doing this, if you want to do it like on the cheap side, there are actually programs. Here, let's minimize that online that mimic Photoshop. I think there's a lot, but this is the one that I like the most. It's called Photopea, and you can just go to this site, photopea.com, and it's Photoshop, basically. Exactly for what I need it to be. It's better than my CS2. Why am I using it in CS2 anyway? I think some of my files are just easier to access because I like being able to, like I've presented to you, to see more than one file at a time. But Photopea has like more modern features. So my CS2 doesn't even do a good stroke around an object, if you can believe that. That's how old that thing is. So when I'm doing lettering, if I'm doing new lettering, it can pose to be a problem because now how I used to do it was I would make the bubble and then expand that selection, or well, make the bubble, fill it so it's got white, and then expand the selection a few pixels and then fill that with black and then put that layer behind the white. Yeah, I know, stupid. But with Photopea, I don't have to do that. So if you guys have other suggestions for these things, I'm more than happy to try different programs. But this has been really cool because I'm able to just go to any laptop that I have, open up this website, and then bring my files over and work on that. Okay, so for this one, here's another technique that I figured out that's super fun. So this sequence that I can show you begins with these pages. So this is the print page. So it's like a zoom in into the helicopter, and then by the 4th panel, it's kind of zoomed in to a shot of a window that shows you the interior. The interior is in pink. So I'm using color to denote the space that they're in. So when you turn the page, it's all pink. Your brain can kind of be like, oh, that must be inside the helicopter. And it's a zoom in on Bomb Girl as she's gearing up and then jumps out the helicopter, like every anti-terrorist squad does. Okay, so for the Webtoons version, I laid it out here already, and so you can see nothing different here, really. It's still a zoom, right? And I'm doing the same technique where I'm increasing the border panels, decreasing the border width to kind of denote like a push-in zoom, like you're zooming in. But what I've found other Webtoons comics do is they fade the border color. Super fun. So when you're scrolling really fast, like the gradient is almost animated, and it's really cool. Anyway, I'm making the border turn from white to pink, to this pink interior. So now it feels like we are also going into that space just because of the border color. And it actually works out. It's not too bad against the pink of the inside of the helicopter. It actually emphasizes it more, and it works out. So you can see it here, and then there's a big shot of a full bleed that I do. So it's kind of like encompassing your whole view, and then we kind of like zoom out a little bit again. As you can see, like the border width gets bigger. And she puts on her hat, and then she jumps out, right? She's like, Bomb Girl over and out. And then as you scroll down, I do that gradient trick again, and I do a gradient into the sky. Everybody does this on Webtoons. Okay, maybe not everybody, but the ones that I really enjoy do this a lot. And it's a minor touch, but it's just so slick. I can't get over it. It's awesome. You don't really have to do it. It's just because I'm playing with representing my comics in this way. It's just fun. It's just super fun. So anyway, she jumps out, and then I do another gradient, and then I gradient back to a different scene, which has border panels again. I kind of like enclose the sequence again, and it's like this longer sequence that you can flip, and then they're like jumping down and going to the plane. That's what I have so far, but I'm actually going to edit this a little bit better, so it's not... It's a great problem to have. So at first I thought I would not have enough material to show this stuff that's on my book. Like, I was afraid, like, oh man, you know, I'm gonna have to keep drawing so much because this whole book's gonna fit in one episode. There's a limit. There's a limit on Webtoons. Thank goodness there's a limit. Otherwise, everything would be in one episode or one Webtoons issue. There's a limit, so now I'm actually reaching that limit on some of my other chapters that I've authored. I kind of have to reorganize everything. Not a big deal again. It's all just a matter of editing things. Okay, anyway, so once that's done, let's see, where's my Webtoons? This is my incredibly messy desktop, but you know, I got like resumes and art samples there. Anyway, you can go into Webtoons, and then I've prepped up 2 of these episodes already for the first chapter, and then you just upload the file and it cuts it up to whatever. Here, I can even show you guys. So okay, so not edit. Oh sure, why not? Let's which is pretty neat because you can preview and kind of take a look at what your pages will look like. So you can kind of see how I'm doing it here. See that gradient trick that I told you guys about? It's super fun when you're like scrolling up through this thing. And you can kind of see like how my borders are changing here as I'm zipping along. No one's going to read it like that. But okay, so then, you know, again, another fade. So this is like how my original chapter, episode 2 was laid out. There's a fade, and then here, I can show you guys. Let me just zoom back in here. You guys can see. So in this print comic, I have this page. So okay, well actually, okay. So anyway, they give each other the thumbs up. Hands moving differently. They give each other the thumbs up, and then this character Mer jumps down, and then she makes this sound, kind of like a bomb dropping, right? And it falls down, and then you hear thum 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 thum, and then thum, and then she drops down to get the terrorist. Catches the remote and breaks it. Okay, so let's keep that in mind. Let me shrink my face again. Whoop. And let's get back to this. All right, so same thing, pretty standard, right? She drops down and then falls. But what I do is I kind of like the idea that it's like this sound, like this, sorry about that, my beeping phone. I do a lot of sequences in the Bomb Squad where it's like these kind of close-up of things that you don't really know what they are, and then I zoom out. And in this case, I kind of want to do it with the sound, so I just kind of dupe the sound lettering and kind of do this zigzag motion just to kind of lead your eye all over the page or all over the screen. And then it does the same thing, and then it lands above the terrorist's head, and then we still get that thum 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 sequence, right? And then and then thum. But this time I'm able to make this panel vertical, and it actually works better than how I originally intended it. You really get a good motion, like action of like this character dropping down than it was before. When it was horizontal, and then she grabs the remote thing and then crunches it, and then okay, so here are more things I do. Because I love that fade stuff, I fade it out into black. Hold on here, getting to be a little loud. Sorry. That's how it is at Comics Rant. Okay, so it becomes all black, and then I do this effect where, again, you don't know what it is, but you're just scrolling. So I'm hoping people will be engaged enough to be like, I don't know what that is. Let's find out. Grav cushion engaged, and then, more of this design element of this jagged lines, and then it's the gravity cushion that's being generated to kind of hold on to Bomb Girl. I like certain transitions like that. Fortunately, the more I prep up the Webtoons version of this, I find it's perfect that I went simple, because I can cover up like spots I never drew in, or like do things like this graphic thing that was never in the book, and just kind of plop it in really fast. A lot of Webtoons, I'm finding the episodes need to be quick, because you need to bust this out super quick. You're supposed to engage the reader once a week. I don't know I'll be able to handle that, but it needs to be fast. So that's exactly why Bomb Squad was made like this. I needed it to be fast. There's certain things about the Webtoons format that I lose. So here's Bomb Girl. She's dropping in, and that's her feet. And then on this panel, it's her feet again, and she's kind of jumping on Mur, and then she flips above this powder keg, which is what I call this guy in print stripe, and flips over him. He then proceeds to punch her, and then whiffs, right? And then all this kind of stuff is going on. Anyway, this original sequence, I kind of like, because again, it lays out pretty good on like traditional printed page. Okay, so it's that same sequence. Whoops. Same sequence. This is the gravity field, right? She's dropping down, and then I end that panel. Her feet actually show up here again, so you can kind of see like she's dropping down on this page to Mur, and then flips over. I always like this part about sequential art, that you can kind of do this animated trail that this character is going through. And it's just my favorite stuff. And then, because of how long this is, it can kind of, your eye will kind of add this extra action of what's happening, and across the page and so on. So let's see. Let me show you guys that again, how it plays out on the Webtoons format. So I ended up erasing some of the trails of her doing this motion, just so that it's a little cleaner, not so messy, not so confusing. And the pinstripe powder keg is actually the one rooting this scene, that like she's jumping over this robot because of this purple reddish color that I picked, so it kind of stands out. So here, that horizontal panel had to be solved this way, and I did a bleed on the left, as if that's where he's coming from. He's like charging from there, and then there's like a hard stop of a border on the right. But then on the next sequence, the border is on the left, and there's like a bleed. That panel just goes off the screen, basically, as if like that motion is carrying. There's certain fun things that I have to do to kind of get it to work right. Then there's this sequence this is where we came from that Photoshop file. Anyway, so this is what I've been working on. Taking a while. I guess it always does take a while, like doing all this editing stuff, but it's fun. So I'm going all in. I'm gonna try to get as many of these episodes as I can do, like Webtoon episodes as I can do, and just have it free for everybody to take a look and read through. And I don't know, the idea is always getting this stuff printed, but I think this is one of the better avenues for me to do it without having to pay for anything, buy anything, just to get word of mouth, or just to get a couple other readers into the fold, or just to like make people aware of it, to be honest with you. But anyway, that's it for this episode. I'm glad you guys chose to stick around if you're still here. And I hope to see you guys next time on Comics Rant.